Hey, what's going on, fellow side hustlers out there? Amir Baluch back with another episode on Side Hustle MD Virtual Summit. Today we got a special guest, Thom Black, who's a partner with Mark Victor Hansen's library, and he's also a master storyteller. We're very lucky to have him talk about how we can write books backwards. That's something concept maybe you guys haven't heard about, but it's very important. And Thom, I'm happy to have you here. I know this is a topic that a lot of doctors are looking forward to learning about.
Amir, I'm pretty excited. I've never done a 4-hour Zoom before.
Well, we might condense it a little bit, but for people, if it goes 4 hours, hopefully people drink their coffee before this.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So how did you get to, become part of this publishing company with Mark Victor Hansen? Like, what's your background and how'd you settle on this career path for yourself?
Well, it's a good question because you can't plan this. All you can do is react to it. So to shrink it up, let's see, weird things. I married the girl that came into my geometry class when I was a sophomore. Her last name was Brown. My last name was Black. So that was kind of weird. She hated my guts all the way into college. So that took a long time to actually get her. So I married about 46 years, 68 years old, ran 68 miles on my 68th birthday 2 months ago. Thank you very much.
Wow. Cool.
I was a part of a group of guys that started the world's largest church when I was in my 20s. Huh. So we built a church out in about 5 years. We had 25,000 people coming. That was a weird deal because nobody had like 2,000. And so we're gonna cover Time magazine, all that crap. And but I left it in my early 30s for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that I felt that my spiritual journey needed to get bigger. I was really interested in what we were doing in the church, but I became more and more respectful in regarding other people's spiritual journeys that were not mine.
Okay.
And so I felt that my life needed to take in from all of those incredibly sacred journeys that were happening all around me. And I needed not to judge them, but I needed to bring them in. I needed to be informed by them. Okay. And so my sacred journey has gotten larger over those 35 years since I left, because I see the world in a much different way than I did when I was in my 20s. And so I fell in love with people's gifts. I started an organization called the Ingenious Center, where we focus on what it is people did. And I was fascinated because anything that's ever done well is done by somebody who's gifted to do it. And I absolutely became locked in on the fact that while the world's trying to change you, that you're already born with the design. Anybody that's got kids knows that the biggest joke in the world is when they put their kid down on the ground as soon as they can even sit up, that they're doing particular things. They're not listening and have no care in the world of what you want them to do. They're doing what they want to do. And then you think, okay, well, maybe that's what's happening. And that's how then you have a second kid, and they're completely different. They're coming prepackaged. They do something. But the trouble is that we live in a world where everybody tries to make us something else. And so our parents try to twist us around a little bit. Our teachers try to, no, don't run around. Sit down. No, don't talk to the kid in back of you. Turn this way. They're trying to get you to do things. And in fact, they've even come up with a name for you if you don't follow their rules. And that is that you have some sort of attention deficit. You won't pay attention to me. So we need to give you a drug so that you lock in on me. What the crap is that all about? And so your schools try to change you, your teachers, your bosses, your spouses, even God, wherever you go. Everybody wants in on the game. They want to change the way you are, which is so sad. And so I spent my life really trying to understand what it is people did, and we talked to them about the things they love to do, and it changed people's lives. I remember I worked with a doctor along the way who was the chief of surgery or whatever the titles are for some big hospital in Massachusetts. And he was the guy, he had a whole thing set up in his house with the light boards, and he'd bring the x-rays and all that crap in. And he would outline everything that would happen the next day during a 4-hour surgery, where the nurses were going to stand, who he wanted in, blah, 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 blah. And he was a top talent. And somebody in Chicago, that's how I met him, a big hospital in Chicago needed a chief of staff or whatever they're called for the emergency trauma center. And so they hired him in, and it about killed him. And he wound up going back because of the gift, because he couldn't do what it is he loved to do. I mean, he liked to figure out what was going to happen, prepare, get everything figured out, have the right people there, make sure he had backup resources. And now he goes to Chicago, he's sitting around in a room, all of a sudden, boom, the door opens, the people come flying in, his other people he needs are on lunch, and he just couldn't handle it. He didn't work in that space. See, that was the function of his gift. It's like giving somebody a violin who plays the trumpet. They do something different. So I was involved in that for much of my life. And then I wrote 8 or 9 books about it. And then, how things happen. Some people said, hey, could you help me with the book? Could you help me with the book? And then before I go, well, some people wanting that. And so I, brought a couple of writers alongside, and I said, hey, I can get you some work if you'd like to do some of these books that they're contacting me about. And then before you know it, I joined up with a couple other partners. Mark Victor Hansen is one of them. Mark Victor Hansen is the #1 author in history. He's got over 500 million books. He's the guy behind Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's got like 30 Guinness World Book records, books sold, number of books, number of time on #1, incredible. And so we decided to move all this into a publishing company of our own, because publishing has changed a lot the last 10 years. And so we wanted to be available. So we started the Mark Victor Hansen Library. It's a publishing company, and we write books for people. Now we got almost 60 writers that are on our team, and we get calls every day from people who want books written, and I love it. It's like making babies every day.
Very cool. Some of those things that you just mentioned will really resonate with the listeners, especially, trying to extract somebody's superpower, and sometimes physicians not feeling like what they're doing is the best fit for them. So especially now that a lot of corporations are coming in and taking over physicians' practices and telling them how to practice, that's actually some of the reasons people are tuning in, because they're trying to say, hey, how can I get less of this corporate medicine where I'm basically a cog in somebody else's wheel? How can I do something where they're a little bit more autonomous, or they could be more of themselves or follow some more of their passions?
I can't tell you how many people that I've sat in behind closed doors with who wept because of what you said, because they feel it somehow in just the messiness of career paths. So they've gotten themselves in a situation where they just don't enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they got into medicine because they like people, and at the end of the day, they don't really get a chance to see their people's eyeballs. They're not involved long enough to see the help that they gave. They like to control the work that they're doing. They feel like they no longer can control the work that they're doing. Other people are giving them too many directions. I mean, there are lots of things, but they weep because they don't know how to get out. Because now they're making a certain amount of money, they've adjusted their lifestyle and what they're doing, and they live in this tension between do I keep doing what I want to do for the few hours I have with my family to be able to enjoy the income that produces, or do I make a jump, or at least begin to strategize and try to figure out what I would love to do and bring my enormous talent into something different? And that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing, because sometimes, I know there are a lot of people out there who have been wrestling with this, but they don't know where the door is. They just don't know how to even begin that discussion, how to even think of it. And they don't want to be seen as a failure. That's just so hard. You're not going to do that anymore. What are you going to do? Well, a lot of times you don't know what you're going to do. And that freezes people. But anyway, so I have so much respect. So that's why I'm on here, because I love what you're doing. I want to support the incredible, value you are.
Yeah, and hopefully people are getting a lot of value from the summit so far. I've gotten good feedback on the concept and everything too, and glad that you're here, so we could talk about how to extract some of these superpowers and passions that doctors have, because I think a lot of them secretly want to create a book and express themselves in a book, or share their knowledge in a book, so they can actually help the world in the way that they're best fit to. What's been your experience with that? I know you've worked with other doctors before. What is the reason they want to write a book, and what are they coming to you for?
Yeah, there are really 4 reasons to write a book. And by the way, writing a book is the number one thing somewhere on people's bucket lists. So out of all the bucket lists that people create, more than 50% have, I'd like to have a book.
Okay.
And books are funny things. I don't quite understand why people bow when they see a book, but you got a book? It's crazy, but it is true. There are 4 reasons why clients write a book. Number 1 is that, and it's funny, I've heard all of these, and I've come to value them when I hear them, even though some of them surprised me in the beginning. There are people who will pay money to have a book written because they just want a book. They just want a book for themselves. They don't care if anybody sees it. They feel that it's some sort of a testament to the fact that they're here. And they want it on their nightstand. They want to be able to look at it. They don't care if anybody looks. Okay, I said, okay, that's great. Wow, what do you know? So we try to take care of those clients. Then there are clients who, in that second phase, will say, I want to write that book kind of like that, but I don't feel like my family knows me. My spouse knows me. My friends know me. They don't know who I am. I'm not the guy who does this or the woman who does that. I'm somebody else. And they want them to know them. Now, sometimes that might be a biography sort of a thing. Sometimes it's an artistic thing where it's a fiction piece. In any case, the book itself speaks for them. And they want 300 copies. They don't care anymore. It's just the people that they know and love. They want to have it. Okay, we do that. We have a lot of people, probably the largest group of people who have come to understand that having a book somehow elevates them in the eyes of their clients or people they work with. They may be in some sort of consulting. I got a friend who does all the lighting, for Disney World and Disneyland and, Royal Caribbean, all that kind of stuff. So he's in kind of it's kind of a tough, he's got to go in. He does $6, $8, $10 million deals, and he's wrestling out somebody else who's bidding on that. So he's looking for any advantage. So you write a book, you have a book that you can go in, you leave these 6 or 8 of these books behind. Everybody goes, got a book, So people look to whether and maybe financial planning or, or whatever, it elevates the marketplace's perception of you. And if you're going to speak, if you want to go on a speaking thing and speak at some doctors' conferences or whatever, if you have a book, it totally changes how you perceive.
Right.
By the way, it doesn't even matter if the book is good. I was a part of a project, called Purpose Driven Life about 35 years ago. The book wasn't very good, but it had the right title on the front. What on earth are you here for? Purpose Driven Life. What are you here for? So over 50 million books were sold. Number 1 all-time. Wow. Crazy. The book sucked. Books like 1 Minute Manager, what they write 1 Minute Manager in a weekend. Wow. It's like 90 pages, And when you look at the book, half those pages have 1 word on them. When you go to Amazon and you do the reviews, how you got like 5 stars?
Yeah.
0 stars. And in fact, the people are angry. They want to know where they get their money back, where they get their time back. Oh, I get the time I wasted. I only read this book when I was sitting on the toilet and I wasted that time, you know? I think that book sold 20 million books, 20 million, yeah, books at the last count that I counted. 20 million of a crappy book. Why? Because it had a simple message, you know, manage your life 1 minute at a time. On the cover, boom, right there. It was the whole book. It was the whole book. So companies are buying that book in truckloads and giving it to their employees, you see. They wanted that book sitting on their desk. So when you're spending too much time on something, you look over and you see that 1 minute manager, oh, that's right, I got to spend less time. So people use books in their business and their work.
Yeah.
The fourth reason why people buy a book is every once in a while, we are able to push the thing out because someone wants people to buy a book that don't know them. They don't want to sell books just at their conferences or the Zoom calls or give them to their clients, but they would like the book to develop a voice, and the people might buy them. The companies like 1 Minute Manager might buy them. And so those are the four reasons: for myself, for my family, for my clients, and then for the general marketplace. But every person's opportunity is different. And so we try to lock in the very first thing. That's one of the first things to figure out is why do you want to have a book?
Right. And you mentioned a lot of those books that became very popular. Do you think when they wrote those books, they wrote their books backwards, like you were mentioning earlier on?
Both those books got lucky.
Okay.
Most books just get lucky. Yeah, 1 Minute Manager, awful book. They got lucky because they happened to write about. Well, here what they did is they did write it backwards, but by accident. And what I mean by that is that the people who are buying the book for their employees, one of their big needs were, my employees are spending too much time. They waste too much time. And so if I could get them to work faster, work smarter, work cleaner, then that would improve my productivity. See, but they got there by accident.
Okay.
Same thing with Purpose Driven Life. Purpose Driven Life is not a very good book. I know I'm saying it online, but it is. It isn't. But the fact that they had a subtitle on the front, "What on earth are you here for?" And it just happens that the two top things, at least in America, that people want in their life, their need, they want to know why they're here, they want to know how they can be. Two top things. So if you walk into any audience tomorrow and you say, how many of you wrestle with wanting to know why you're here? 3/4 of the audience are raising it.
Like a purpose, basically.
Or if you come out to another audience and you say, how many of you would say that the biggest question you have in your life and desire and purpose is you want to be happy? 3/4 of the people raise their hand. Now, they don't even know what it means to be happy. They just know that they're not.
Hmm.
So you see, you can kind of figure that out. But it's important to know, for anybody writing a book, why they want to write a book, because we want to adjust the deliverable so that that they have something that they really love.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So are there like steps that you would outline if you're writing a book backwards? Like if you're working with somebody that wants to publish, do you have like a questionnaire that they should go through, or do they really start?
Personal. It's all too personal. And the trouble about a questionnaire, whenever you ask somebody a pre-designed question like that with a blank, all your data gets filtered through those questions. It'd be like you walking into a trauma situation and asking 8 questions to your patient that's there. I'm guessing that one of your questions is, tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what's hurting. Tell me what's not right. You need to get their exchange going with you for you to really lock in with them. If all you're doing is asking them questions that you're walking in with, you could very well be missing something that's not inside the questions, you see. So this is all personal. And it starts, again, once we understand what kind of why you're calling us and why you want to do a book, we spend our next amount of time with understanding who your reader is. It's all about your reader. Your reader is your client. Your reader is going to buy the thing. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. That's what we have to know. I wrote the biggest children's series in the country that got blown up a little bit by the pandemic, The Amazing Adventures of Harry Moon. And it was for third, fourth, and fifth graders about a town that's trapped in Halloween, can't get out. 26 books in the series, was going incredible. The school shut down, when we wrote Harry Moon, I have two audiences. I have the kid who's reading the book, but the kids don't buy books. And so I have the teacher or the parent or the grandmother who's buying the book. So I have to design a book, so that everybody wants it, especially the person who's buying it. And that's a trick. Same thing with talking to a client who's interested in a book. Who's going to read your book? Well, a couple of things we know. We know automatically that if you're going to sell your book, women are going to read your book, because 85 to 90% of all books are bought by women. So if you don't at least think about that, usually we'll get a comment, oh, I want everybody to read my book. Everybody's going to read my book. Hey, you know what? One of my best friends that worked on the Harry Moon Project is in a hospital right now because he had a heart attack on Wednesday, and he walked around with it until Friday night, and it almost killed him. Why? Because men are idiots. And so, I think it'll get better. Oh, it'll get better. Oh, my leg, I can't move my leg. It'll get better. Yeah, men don't go to the doctors, and men don't read. And so, if your book is doing well, it's because women are bringing it in. Women are buying it. Well, you better be nice to keep that in mind when you're writing it. Also, you want to know, is this a book we're going to sell to the general public, or can we write a book that companies would buy? Once you get an order for 1,000 books from one organization or place, it changes you. It changes you. Because people out there, oh, I got to get my thing on Amazon. Oh, I got to get my things in Barnes and Noble. Well, how much did you make last year? $18? You don't make any money on those. And you got to keep marketing, because nobody cares about a book after 3 months. It's like a movie that comes out.
Wow.
They advertise your movie. The movie's there. You go, oh, I got to get to that. You go to the movie theater in 2 months, it's gone. You can't even find it. You're not going to watch it. So that's why books are. Books have like a 3 to 4 month window. And after that, nobody cares about it. Everybody wants new product in the book world. And so you want to think about how you can make we call it evergreen, how you can put a product together that continues to be out there, which is what we do with the Mark Transit Library. We're always featuring books, moving books through Mark's brand weight, because it keeps the books relevant. We talk right up front in terms of whether or not we can make this book a fiction book. Right now, our 20 top sellers in our library, our publishing company, are all fiction books. People just don't. I'd be curious. With all the people that are watching this, how many of them actually read a self-help book all the way through? This doesn't happen very often. They're not very interesting. Most people don't learn by reading. And so you have to give them what they want. You have to give them an experience. And so whenever possible, we look for principles that we can embed inside of a fiction story. And then that way, the average book is read 9 pages. I'm going to get to that 10th page. I'm going to give them a story that they can keep reading. And you find them everywhere. I was talking to a female doctor about 8 months ago. And she wanted to do exactly what you're doing. She wants to slide out of her profession and into something where she's doing speaking, and she has some life principles she wants to teach. And so I don't know where this is going. I mean, it's always hard because she's not done anything yet in that field. So it's like these guys coming, I want a book on financial planning. I'm gonna give it to my client. Oh, okay, great. Well, let's start with your clients. How many clients do you have? I'm just curious. Oh, I don't have any clients yet. Oh, so you're gonna write a book on financial planning? You've never had. So anyway, so I'm talking to this woman who's a doctor. She's got a smock thing on like you. We're sitting in her office. And I'm not quite sure where this is going to go because I can't figure out her angle, because that's what we do. We try to figure out the angle. And I'm looking around her office and is on a Zoom like this, and I'm seeing all these mermaid things, little mermaid figurines, mermaid pictures on the back. And I said, wow, you got a lot of mermaid stuff, a lot. And I said, so what's the story with the mermaids? And she said, well, I woke up about 7 or 8 years ago with repressed memories of being a mermaid. I was a mermaid before I got here. I said, oh, because you're wanting, hey, I'm there. I'm going to bear witness to her life, right? Oh, but then immediately I said, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to write a book about a woman later in life who wakes up one day and realizes she was a mermaid. And that she actually has certain abilities as a human that come from her mermaid past that she didn't even know she really had. And we're going to play it straight. We're going to play it totally straight. So we wrote a book called Mermaid, and it's going to be a trilogy, hotter than crap. She gave me some principles that she wanted to teach on stage that we built into this thing. And we've got some appointments after the first year about buying the screen rights, because it's an incredible story about an older woman who can be seen as, in a sense, a superhero because she was a mermaid and now she's living this life almost like Wonder Woman, right? But you find the story is just everywhere like that. I did another story for a woman. Again, she was a consultant, a life coach. But then she wanted, a book with certain principles in it. And again, everything's the same out there. So I try to do different things. So I said, how about if we write a book like this? Because I'm envisioning walking onto a stage to speak, and she's the fourth or fifth person, and they've been hearing all the same stuff by everybody else. So now she's going to come out and say the same stuff. I said, so why don't we write a book about a woman who's worked at a fairly large company for a number of years, and the company's been sold. And she's all excited because the new management staff is there today, and they're announcing all the new job positions and everything. And she's expecting, because she was going to get it before the company got sold, a bump up to the executive suite as a VP or as a director or something. So she gets all dressed, goes in, goes up on the elevator, walks into a room. Of course, she knows nobody because they're sitting at a table, and she sits down and she hears, we're doing some reorganization. We're eliminating your department. And here's your folder. This is your last day. So take the folder up to HR, and they'll give you your thing, and then they'll escort you out. You'll take your thing. So she gets up. She's a little choked up, doesn't show it, walks out, goes in the elevator, punches the button, punches the stop button, says that they want me, they can come find me. She goes back down to her office. She throws that folder. She's supposed to take out the HR and the garbage, gets all the stuff out of her office cubicle, so much for her office, and takes everything home. Next day, she gets up, gets dressed, and comes into work just she has every day for 16 years. But she has no office. And so, well, they got to find me. So she's going up and down the elevator. She sits in the library. They have a library in the company. She's sitting in a cafeteria. She's next to her at a table, talking about how all of these job eliminations that finds them short-staffed, and so they don't know how they're going to get their project done. So she scoots over and she says, "I got some time. I'm done with my project." And so, oh, sure. So she joins their project. Over the next 2 or 3 months, winds up becoming the person that torches it and lights it over the edge. Other people hear about it in other groups and start asking her, do you have time for me? You have time for us? You have time for us? And over the next 2 or 3 years, they never find her. And she keeps working. She still keeps getting her paycheck, but she's transforming the company from the inside out because she's electric. She's just incredible. And so finally, the company buys a smaller company and they need a CEO. So they do check around, and they wind up contacting this woman, and they say, we'd like you to be the CEO of the new company. And she says to them, well, that's really nice, because I'm so tired of getting discovered. And she says, what? They say, what? Because you understand, I've not worked here for 2 years. And so the book is that you can imagine her coming out on a stage, embracing everybody that was out there before her, and say, you've heard some incredibly good principles about how to be successful, how to take control of your life, how to get what you want. And any one of them are great. But you've not heard the most the most important one. And the most important one is that no matter which strategy and lifestyle you choose, and all this the secret to your life is for you to make yourself unforgettable. And so the name of the book is Unforgettable.
Very cool.
And people got nuts just off the cover. So you see this, but that's try to do that with it. I could tell 100 of those stories, one after another, and each one is more fun than the other, you know. But that's what we do. You gotta find the story. So when you write books backwards, you figure out who your audience is. You figure out who's going to be the buyer of the book, and then you have to ask yourself, what is it they need? What do they need to know? You can't believe how many people, how many clients say, well, I want them to know this. I want them to understand this. I go, but they don't care what you want them to know. You have to figure out what they want to know, what they're looking for. And they're usually looking for one idea, one thought. They don't want a lobotomy. They don't want you to come in and change everything in their head. They're looking for an idea that's going to matter to them. And so what's the idea that's going to matter to them? What's the one idea that a company's looking for that they want their employees to really grab? See? And so once we get those things figured out, then we start exploring the story. What does the story look like? And so then we put the synopsis together, and then we start writing things. We do all the writing really for all of our clients. Our clients are too busy. They're not professional writers. Some of them have been working on their books for 15 years. They give the thing over to us. We write it with them, along with them. They look at the different passages we do, change them, edit them. And usually we get a book done somewhere around 120 days. So usually between 3 and 4 months, the book is finished. Cover is done in the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
And the pre-sale starts. It's a lot of fun.
Let me tell you, it took me 4 years to get my book written. I was driving and doing voice to text and just getting the material out. It was too long. Editor said it was completely boring. Finally, I got an editor that cut it down and helped me, but it was definitely a 4 or 5 year process. I wish I'd met you before I went through that process. Let me tell you. Well, you know, after all these stories are so awesome, you're basically given the blueprint. There's still some guys out here that they want to get started. They don't know how. What would be the next 1 or 2 steps? Like, what is the most important next step for these people?
It's only one step. It's only one step. And I'm really glad you're doing this at the beginning of the year, because it sort of goes into a lot of thinking at that beginning of the year thinking. What's going to be different about my life in 22?
Yeah.
And if you're asking that question, it's not different than other. It's different in evolution. How am I going to become a better human in 22? How am I going to take another step or two toward why I'm here, what I'm all about? And it may be to get more locked into something in the medical profession that really allows me to do what I want to do. That could simply be also where you're at, because for some people, gifts, environment that they're in is as much an important part as the work that they're doing. And so some people are just in the wrong place. Some people are in the wrong spot in their profession. Some of them, some shouldn't even be in the profession at all and should transition out, you see. So you got something to say on all that. And the beginning of the year is the first time to say, it's going to happen this year. The same thing with a book. And that is that if someone wants to have a book, the first and only thing they need to do is make the decision. You gotta flipping make the decision. Once you make the decision, then it's easy. You can come work with us. You can find somebody else. You can start writing on your own, knowing you're going to give it to somebody else later. But if you want a book done in 22, you need to make the decision, and then figure out then what you do once you make that decision.
Very cool. Hey, there you guys have it. A lot of important points of writing a book from Thom Black, who definitely knows what he's talking about, as you can tell, worked with, millions of books, plenty of doctors as well. So, hopefully you guys get a lot out of this. And Thom, if they want to reach out to you, what would be a good way for them to reach you?
Sure. They can either contact you, they can contact, and you can steer them over to us. If any don't do that, they can go to markvictorhansenlibrary.com. They can go to mvhlibrary.com. They'll all go to the same place. And just say, you heard Thom, and can you give me a call? And I'll be happy to take anybody through any steps that they want. We treat everybody we talk to as making a friend. And so half the people we talk to just want some advice on something they've already written or whatever. We take the time and we invest in that. This is a very personal business for us, and this is a very personal exercise. And it's a space that's confusing because there's a lot of people that don't take this personally on the professional side. And so we try to protect our clients and make sure they get good advice and they get help in making good decisions for themselves.
Awesome. Well, there you guys have it. You guys got to make a decision. That's step number one. And look forward to hearing everybody's feedback from this episode. And Thom, thanks for taking some time out for it today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're a great guy. And I'm so happy to be able to work with you. So proud of you. Good work. Okay.